Good morning, kids, and welcome back to another video of Fox Flicks on the film theaters. Today, we're checking out another theory on the amazing digital circus and how Pomni is destined to die. Wait, destined to die? MatPat, what are you getting at, man?
Well, hello there.
Oh, hey, Kane.
Welcome. Please come in. I know
Oh,
this
that
might
was
not be
bright.
what you were expecting, but you and I, we're going to go on so
Okay,
many
got a lot of
adventures.
glitches.
We're going to have so much fun.
Oh, boy.
Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Well, I think we're in hell. Oh, that was creepy.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's here to show you the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending theories you can imagine. In case you missed our last theory on the
Still love
amazing
it.
digital circus, the long and short of it is that we believe that the circus here isn't exactly what it appears to be.
No,
Instead of some
yeah, it's
futuristic,
digital,
fully
duh.
immersive experience, we believe that it's actually a VR video game from the 1990s, one that copies the brains of anyone who puts on the headset. It then turns that copy into a digital character to go on adventures throughout the circus. So the people trapped
Kind of
in this
like a
world looking
Matrix.
for an exit, they're not actually people, just digital copies of their consciousnesses, their personalities. That's why we repeatedly see workstations of VR headsets in the first episode, but with
Specifically
no one
that
actually
one.
wearing the headsets. And our theories didn't stop there. We continued by saying that Pomni is either the creator of the game or an employee at the development studio
Definitely
making the game, as
developable.
evidenced by
Definitely
our mental
developable.
breakdown when seeing those work desks. And while this is the direction that I still believe the series is headed for,
How about we talk about something else?
you see, there's still a ton to dig
Let's
into
talk
here
about
with the digital
Kane.
circus. Well, sure, those initial theories are the ones that I think are the most likely and the most intentional. It's once you stretch a
Definitely.
bit further out that some of the truly fun, wacky ideas really start to develop. Are they right? Yeah, probably not.
No,
Are
of
they
course not.
interesting and fun? Absolutely. And therein lies the beauty of
I mean, that's
theory.
all what theory crafting is about. Making it fun, not 100% canon, because we don't have any control over
Crafting.
that.
For example, last time I briefly tossed out a bit of wild speculation that the digital circus may have itself some biblical connections. In this brief scene exploring the back rooms of the company who seemingly created the
shit.
circus, we see the initials C and A painted onto the wall. C made me
C
immediately
and
connect things back to our
A.
lovable AI ringleader Kane, a guy who's probably the most in control of this entire situation. And if you tend to see the
Oh,
name
and
Kane
smoking something,
partnered with
something.
the initial A in any sort of pop cultural reference, the first immediate jump is going to be to the biblical story of
Cain and Abel.
See, Cain and Abel were the
Classic.
children of Adam and Eve, the first humans to ever exist in the Abrahamic religions. At the time, I wasn't
No,
really
yeah,
sure
yeah,
if
that's
this
right.
was
The
meant
false
to be
humans.
anything or if it was going to lead anywhere. But the more I sat and thought about it, the more connections that
Actually, hold on. Now, quick question. If Cain and Abel were technically the first human, then what were Adam and Eve? They were the first humans actually created by God, but if Cain and Abel were the actual first humans of Earth, okay, no, that's gonna throw my brain.
started
Just
to make.
move
Some
on.
of those connections were admittedly very dumb. For example, in biblical canon, Cain kills Abel and becomes the first murderer. And what does Cain do multiple times throughout the pilot? He pops a
Constantly
bubble
pops
for comedic
bubbles.
effect.
Ow! You parasite!
Cain kills a bubble, a bull.
Oh, that's
Coincidence?
just funny.
Absolutely
That
yes.
makes
It
me
is
laugh.
single-handedly one of the dumbest things I've ever said in a theory, and I have said a lot of dumb things in theories.
Yes,
But other
yes, you have.
parallels that I found as I was doing this little brain search through the episode again were a lot more compelling. In fact, some
Oh?
connections
Like
were
what?
so large that I believe I may have just cracked the question of what the digital circus is wide open. You see,
Ooh.
loyal theorists,
Okay.
the amazing digital circus isn't just some mere video game
What
that's
you
trapped
got?
these consciousnesses. No, it's something much darker. It's an eternity
Much.
of torment
Much.
and torture. The
Was.
amazing digital circus is, quite literally, hell. Put on your headsets
Really?
and get your randomly generated names, my friends. We're going in. So the claim
Ah, yes, nothing better than being called. I don't know how you do that. And it's just, how about no, that doesn't work. Swing it again.
digital circus is literally hell. It's a pretty bold one, so why would I possibly make it? Well, look at this. At the very end of the pilot, here we're shown all the human characters sitting at a table while eating food. But
All
you notice
six.
anything weird about their dining arrangement? Of all the ways they could have set up this table, they decided to have every character on just one side. All of
I do think that was just because it's easier for the zoom out than having, people's backs to the camera.
them facing the same direction, out at us, the audience. When this is done in fiction, it's rarely by mistake, because this right here, this This is a very iconic framing device from one of the most famous paintings ever made,
The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci.
This depicts the final meal of Jesus and his followers shared before his crucifixion.
Still incredible.
It's been the backbone of conspiracy theories and Dan Brown novels for centuries.
Hey, the Da Vinci Code. Love it.
Series and all the other creatives over at Glitch, they're smart people. They would
An incredible
without
artist.
understanding the historical baggage that comes along with it.
I mean,
and it's not just
Kratos,
the table
you
layout
know.
that's worth calling out here. Look at Pomni in the center, the exact position that Jesus is in for the painting. And notice the colors of Pomni, red and blue. Wouldn't it
And
be
yellow.
weird if, oh wait, never mind, Jesus is also dressed in red and blue. The interpretation
Oh,
of his colors
well,
is that
okay.
the blue represents the divine half of God, heaven, and his red represents the blood, mankind. So in Jesus, you have the mixing
A
of
God
those two
born of
elements,
human
a God
flesh.
born amongst men and set to live as a human. Red.
Okay, I know that what I said is technically right, but the way I said it was definitely not right.
Blue. And in Pomni, we actually have something similar, at least if our earlier theories were correct. A creator of this game, a god of this world, if you will, now
having to live
as a
in
part
it.
of their own creation. And it's not like religion is
Now that
completely
makes
absent from
sense.
this world either. Quite the contrary. We know for a fact that God exists in the circus in some form or another. During the first adventure that Keen sets up for Pomni, the Gloink Queen says this.
I am Gloinks. You will be Gloinks. God will be Gloinks.
What an
Now,
oddly specific thing.
Now, hold on. Before I let MadPad go on, I just want to say one thing real quick. When I had originally watched that episode, and, you know, it's only the pilot, I didn't hear the Gloink Queen say God. I heard all will be Gloinks. But now actually hearing it back, like, it does say God.
Thing to say.
There we
Speaking of
go.
Making oddly specific references that we can build off of, let's talk about abstraction. According to the show,
Ah, a classic. Oop, hold on, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
when you
There we
obsess over
go.
being trapped in the circus
Just
and
a
drive
little
yourself
glitch.
crazy looking for a way out,
A little.
Eventually, you get to asking what the point of anything is, and you completely lose sight of who you are and why you're even alive. And when you reach your breaking point, something
That's called
really
a
terrible
mental
can
snap.
happen.
this is known as abstraction, and we see the results of it when
Oh,
we meet Kaufmo
boy.
the clown, or at least what's left of him.
Oh, Kaufmo's been obstructed.
Last time, I wasn't really sure if we had enough to really make a judgment over what was happening here, but I did find some more information when digging through the creator Gooseworks' Tumblr. According to her,
Really?
abstracting isn't just
Tumblr.
going crazy and becoming a big scary monster. It's definitely part of it for sure, but there is a deeper meaning. According to Gooseworks, when
There's
you
more.
abstract, you lose everything about yourself. You're stripped of every single scrap of individuality that you become something unrecognizable. All abstracted people look the same. This glitchy four-legged monster covered in eyeballs. And perhaps most importantly, abstraction cannot be undone. Now,
It can be
looking back over the
prevented.
series with this new lens of religious
can be
imagery,
undone.
abstracted start resembling something else, something beyond just monsters. They almost look like angels. Well, not really angels, more biblically accurate
There you
angels,
go.
which, ironically enough, doesn't really come from the Bible. Let me explain. It's kind of confusing.
Please.
3 years ago, a meme started spreading across the internet featuring these monstrous, multi-eyed creations. They were called biblically accurate angels. Now, you might look at these things and go, really? They don't exactly look like the traditional image of an angel with robes and wings and hands
Yeah, that's
and all that.
traditional.
What they're riffing on here is a very
Not
specific
accurate.
part of the Bible. A few chapters in the book of Ezekiel where he describes having visions of winged creatures with 4 faces, some human, some animal, and these creatures were joined by wheels within wheels with eyes. Here's a version of the quote. I looked, and I saw beside the cherubim...
Now, since I am covering it up with the face cam, I'll just go ahead and tell you the chapter. It's Ezekiel chapter 10, verse 9 through 12. Or line 9 through 12. I always get that mixed up.
4 wheels, one beside each of the cherubim. Their entire bodies, including their backs, their hands, and their wings, were completely full of eyes, as were their 4 wheels.
Eyeballs!
Now, for the sake of clarity, the wheels
Black
with
Christmas.
eyes, or ophonym, both are and aren't considered angels depending on what documents you're using and how you're classifying things. And again, all of this is based on a few very short lines in a very long, very ancient religious tradition. But that's
Yeah,
neither
he's
here nor
right.
there. The point is that these religious entities are always described as having an abnormal number of eyes all over their bodies, just like the abstracted
Abnormal.
that we're seeing in Digital Circus. The weird
Abnormal.
descriptions even fit with the name
Abstract.
abstraction. These so-called biblically accurate angels are weird, almost completely unrecognizable to humans because we can't comprehend what we're witnessing. They're unknowable. In
Be
other
not
words, they're
afraid.
abstract. Now, while it's never made clear why these biblical creatures would have so many eyes, one persistent idea is that the design represents God's watchful eye over us. They're always watching us because God knows all. He sees all. Look again at the digital
That would make
circus.
sense.
There's a ton of eyeball imagery here, all throughout this first episode. Eyes are hidden in the intro, they're hidden in paintings, they're hidden in the background.
wow.
Kane even admits that he wants all the
That
cast to
is a
stay
lot
in
of
the circus.
eyes.
Where I can keep my hundreds of all-seeing eyes on you.
Kane,
Oh,
an
yeah, he
omniscient
can't
character
blink.
who knows everything. A god of sorts. And what's he made of? Basically a mouth and two big ol' eyes. Oh, and looking at Kane's dialogue through this more religious
You know,
lens,
actually, hold on. Quick question. How does he keep those eyes wet? Because he's gotta do some way to make sure that he's not in constant pain from the
makes this line hit
dryness
a whole
and
lot different.
Do you
irritation.
like adventure, activity, wonder, danger, horror, pain, suffering, agony, death, disease, death, angel food cake?
Angel
Not
food
only
cake?
Does suffering, agony, and death all sound very hellish?
Food
but
cake
why
just throws
angel
me.
Food cake. Like, why call out that specific type of cake here? Again, we have ourselves
No
a
idea.
weird connection to angels and religion that comes seemingly out of nowhere. But the most compelling reason for why we can draw parallels between this series and all these religious ideas has to be the way that the creator Gooseworks talks about the digital circus. When asked if
Go
anyone in
on.
the series would be killed, Gooseworks answered that it depends on your definition of kill, which is likely pointing to the idea of abstraction. But it's interesting that she makes this distinction. It means
Right
that
about
none of
that.
these characters can die, so to speak. They're trapped in here forever in eternal torment, just like hell. Gooseworks also talks about how characters deserve to be there, specifically calling out Jax as the one who deserves to be there the most. Using the phrase deserves to be
He
there
is an
shows that the
a-hole.
circus is some place of judgment. It's either a reward for those who are good or a punishment for those who are evil. And considering Gooseworks has a lot of negative things to say about Jax, this ain't your reward day at the spa.
Oh, yeah,
Time and
no,
time
it's
again,
not
Gooseworks
close.
has gone on the record to say how awful Jax is. According to Gooseworks, Jax is morally the worst character in the show, so much so that when asked if he was more of a jerk or an anti-hero,
I bet even Satan would look at this guy and be like, that's fucked up. Full of cyanide and happiness.
she explained that, quote, there's absolutely nothing heroic about Jax. Those are some pretty strong words for a character that you yourself created. When another fan commented that they
Yeah.
hoped Jax was gonna get worse, Gooseworks said, you're probably gonna enjoy some of the things we have planned. And already the behavior that we've
boy.
seen from him throughout the series is pretty awful. He's mean, he trips people, he knocks them over, he steps on one of Gangle's masks without caring. He knows that Ragatha's deepest fear is centipedes, and he uses that information to torture her.
By the way, I may have left something in your room today, so let me know if you find it. You're not afraid of centipedes, are you?
Jax! That's literally my only fear. Why would you do this?
Jax is
Because
clearly
he's an
not a good
a-hole.
person. So if Gooseworks is saying that
He a
he
monster.
deserves to be in the circus more than most, then it clearly implies that we're trapped in hell. But just because they're in hell
You know, if that's what Jax is like inside the digital circus, what was he like outside it?
doesn't necessarily mean it has to be your typical fire and brimstone hell. Case in point,
Yo,
one of the
he's
most
right about that.
influential depictions of
Hell isn't
comes
just
from a poem
fire
by
and
French
brimstone.
philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, known as huis clos, or translated into English, no exit. In it,
Oh.
3 people condemned to
Wait,
hell are brought
no exit? And what does Kane always say? There is no exit? There never is? Ho 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 ho. Sorry, I don't know why I got French for 5 seconds though.
the same room and locked inside. But instead of a torture chamber, they just find a comfortably furnished room. Not exactly what you'd expect, right? But as these 3 start talking and getting to know each other, they realize they don't click. They annoy each other. They push each other's buttons and they twist the knife until one of them realizes this is the torture.
This
The famous
is
line from the play
hell.
reads, hell is other people. That sounds exactly like
Ooh,
what we
I
see
need that
here
as
in the
a
digital
shot.
circus. It's 6 people who don't necessarily click with one another, and no matter how polite they are, they all still push each other's buttons. They exploit each other's fears and fake laugh at each other's jokes. But the worst part of all, there's no exit. Trapped in a digital room with no escape. But now to the big question.
Well, better get
Point.
digital
It's all
dancing.
interesting for sure, but why bring up all these parallels? Well, if we can point to all these religious ideas to show what the digital circus is and how they're going to be using it in the story, we can also use them to point to where the story is headed. Specifically,
Ooh,
I believe that we can
okay.
use the religious imagery to get a pretty good idea of what Pomni's story arc is going to be. You see, Pomni is digital
Start
circus's
talking.
parallel to Jesus Christ. I know that sounds insane. Sounds crazy enough for one of those
I'll give a name.
out of context compilations that I see floating around. But the connections are there when you actually stop and look at them. I mean, think back to what I pointed out earlier about the Last Supper scene. Pomni is framed as the one in the center, exactly where Jesus is sitting in the painting. Her color scheme
yeah.
matches Jesus's. His robes are split between 2 colors, red and blue, just like Pomni's jester
She
outfit.
still has a whole lot of yellow on her. I almost said him.
Additionally, we have to consider Pomni's hand. About halfway through the episode, when the abstracted Kaufmo attacks Ragatha and makes her glitch, Pomni tries to help her and gets her hand glitched in the process. This plotline is actually left unresolved at the end of the episode, with Cain fixing Ragatha, but not Pomni, who keeps the glitching hand a secret. In Christianity, wounds or scars on your hand like this usually reference a very specific thing, stigmata. These are representative of the wounds that Jesus got when he was being hammered on the cross, usually depicted as scars on your hands. Another connection to Pomni. And
Now
if
that
our
is
previous theory is correct,
interesting.
and Pomni's human persona is an employee of the company behind the digital circus, well, she's the developer of this game. That would make her the creator. And just like Jesus is an aspect of God in many sects of Christianity, that would make Pomni an aspect of a god or creator in this world. Heck, her arc in the very
Now
first
that is
episode,
good.
forgetting who she is so that the information can be dramatically revealed to her later on, it even follows what Jesus went through in biblical texts, beginning life as a human before having to discover for himself that he is in fact the Son of
The
God,
Son of
discovering
God.
his
Yep.
purpose to save humanity from themselves. And this is why I think we have to care about all